Welcome everyone to our final Venus Alchemy teleclass in this Libra Morningstar Venus Descent series. We are now approaching the 8th gate, Earth Star Chakra, Death by Intent, and the underworld time that begins on July 8th and lasts until September 19th. It's a long time. So we have just really loved having our time with all of you. If you are one of the few who didn't already sign up or register for the Evening Star Ascension Journey, we will be sending an email soon. And once, we'll send it once we get the class page together. So working on that. So it might be still a few more days, but yeah, so you'll have an opportunity to sign up for that if you're not already registered. And also stay tuned because we'll send out some information about a free look at the underworld via a webinar on this underworld journey. Maybe a few additional details that we haven't covered here, but mostly we're going to be also covering it here. If there's anybody you know who might be interested and would be supported by what we're offering, then we would love for you to invite them to join us, and we'll have the details on that we'll send to you. It is scheduled for Sunday, July 21st at 1 p.m. Pacific, so stay tuned, and that information will be sent out pretty soon. Also, as we get started, Tammy and I really want to thank everyone for the fabulous participation with this Venus journey. Wow. And for all the supportive feedback that we've received along the way. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's very helpful because that lets us know we're on the right track. And then something that I definitely have noticed, and I know Tammy has, and there's other people, that this work really continues to be life-changing and transformative. And I'm in my Venus return right now, so this is the first time I've done a Venus return this way, and oh my goddess, it's been amazing. So we're really, really grateful for all the ways you've helped us continue to evolve our understanding and experience of these mysteries, reminding us over and over how we're all in this together. We're powerful collaborators and co-creators, so thank you again. And how the underworld time is really powerful and can be challenging depending on where you are with the transformational journey of your own soul and what your soul is calling for now. So sometimes we can't necessarily judge where we are, because sometimes we could be in the deepest, darkest hell, but we're like steps away from being, you know, in a greater place of wholeness. So, and then sometimes we can feel like it's going pretty well, but we're still several steps away from being at that place of greater wholeness. So we can't judge based on what's happening externally. It's really not, I'm not about that. So I just, quick example, my age 40 Venus return, it was all about high magic. My age 48 Venus return, I was in total hell. So my whole life, everything was disintegrating around me. It was awful. So I wasn't able to do much ceremonially with the cycle. I was just basically, barely staying afloat. And then my age 56 Venus return, what was like night and day compared to, what I had gone through at 48. And now my age 64 Venus return is been, again, awesome. And so, the opportunity, the reminder, and the support that we can give one another is to keep letting go. That's what gets us through this. And I will say that on the other side of those really awful times, things got way better than I could have ever imagined. So it's definitely our opportunity to just stay with the process, trust that process, embrace the death and rebirth that needs to happen, let go of what you need to let go of as much as you possibly can. So I have to say, I really find I grow more in love with the Venus journey every time I have consciously engaged it. So I know Tammy can probably agree with that. So also just there are some sharings that Tammy and I have posted on the class page of our Venus underworld, like our journal entries, and it gives you a sense of how there could be a different experience. So again, there's no right or wrong, there's no better or worse. It's just whatever's happening is intended to empower you And you must die sometimes to something before, or surrender and let go of something before you can get to that empowerment. So Tammy, anything you want to share about any of that before we jump into the rest of this?
Yeah, absolutely. I just love, it's amazing to me that we are here, that we've gotten to this stage. And, like Kaylin is relating, I resonate with so much of what you say. And I also kind of on a practical note, I just want to say for people who maybe don't feel like they've done every class as deeply as they've wanted to, one of the things we like to remind people of is that at this stage in the underworld journey, it's a really potent time to be able to kind of revisit and to, we get to compost it all here. So it might sound a little strange, but in a weird way, I kind of always look forward to this time, because to me, it just feels like the deeper dropping in. But yeah, I'm so grateful for this work, and really honor, Kaylin, that this is your Venus return. And so, in a way, it's vital for each one of us. It's potent and powerful for all of us in different ways. And I just know too, for my Venus return, it was incredibly intense and beautiful and high magic. And this one, I think what's really come through for me is, at so many levels, just this deeper awareness of how relationship permeates everything. The meta goddess and the way she guides this whole journey. She's, in some ways, I almost begin to feel that this cycle in particular, it's so all encompassing. You can see the influence of Libra. I have so much deeper respect for what Libra actually holds at this stage than I ever have before. So I'm excited for this moment that we get to enter the underworld and the 8th gate together, and for this journey tonight also.
Yay. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to visit a little bit about the belly of the goddess imagery before we do the prayer to bring in the sacred space. And the reason for this is for those of you who may not be aware of this belly of the goddess imagery. And I had the great fortune of being able to go to the Sekhmet temple at Luxor in 1999 and with Nikki Scully. And then when the next year she came to Tucson and she did this initiation, belly of the goddess. And I got my beloved golden Sekhmet statue from that. But this whole idea of how the goddess can devour us and then digest us and help us to release, like what Nikki Scully says, is that although Sekhmet is a compassionate and powerful healing goddess, she is also the great destroyer. She represents the feminine fire to which you commit your inappropriate patterns, and it is in her belly that the transformation occurs. She is the container, solid yet flexible, that holds you safe while you are being cooked and your demons digested. And on the ascent journey, we will be working with the demons a lot. The demons digested and transformed into their more productive, useful potential. So I just wanted everybody to have a sense of what this is. It's an alchemy, it's this process. And so I will just invite everyone to, call your whole self present. You may want to close your eyes. You may want to unfocus your gaze, whatever works for you to come into a deeper place and connect with your breath, and imagine that yourself is being surrounded by whatever you need at this particular time to support you. As we're choosing and intending, literally choosing and intending to die to any false belief that has ever defined our life experience. So that we can then be transformed in the belly of the goddess with this prayer. So here we go. Almighty goddess of disruption, death, dying, and total transformation. In your belly, within your sacred body, I know I am safely held as I am digested and assimilated, even when it doesn't feel that way. Here within the secure protection of your body, I continue to have the courage to face my fears and shadow side. In your belly, I know I'm safe to fully feel all that I have been afraid to feel until now, including any hatred I may still have for myself or others, the immense pain or hurt betrayal, guilt, and shame, including all the ways I've rejected myself and others, all the ways I've judged myself as not enough, all the feelings I have around being abandoned by the divine, great spirit, great mystery, all that is, all the ways I've been wounded, punished, and judged by others, and the immense unfairness of it all, how I have strived to be perfect and feel I have fallen short, judging myself for that too, how I have felt that if I'm not perfect, I may not be loved, I may not be accepted, I may be cast into the wilderness to die. Thank you, oh great dark one, for this precious gift of safety to feel these difficult feelings, and for the digestive process nourishing my transformation and renewing my strength. Thank you for your fierce commitment to restoring the cosmic balance for all life. Thank you so much for digesting all that holds me back from knowing and expressing who I really am. Mighty and wondrous goddess of the deep, dark depths, thank you for helping me experience the precious secrets of surrender and what it takes to die a good and peaceful death. Thank you for guiding me and surrendering to all that is in the way of living my fully empowered self. Thank you for helping me feel all my uncomfortable feelings, including anger, fury, uncertainty, anguish, sorrow, grief, anxiety, and self-doubt. Thank you for helping me transmute all of this into compassion, confidence, and courage so that I restore the cosmic balance, cosmic awareness, cosmic justice within myself and in all relationship to the all of life, benefiting all beings everywhere, while inspiring others to their own greatness by embracing and transforming their dark side, creating a high vibrational revolutionary wave of change for our beloved Earth. I am deeply grateful that this is done, and this is so, and so it is. Blessed be.
I'm going to unmute.
That would be good.
Yeah, I wanted to be muted because I wanted to be so in that. Thank you. That was awesome. So we are going to do something that we do almost every time, which is to go through the charge of the Dark Goddess as an invocation to open the space. Then we're going to speak into the night sky magic. Kaylin's put together amazing slides. It's incredible what's happening over the next couple months. We're going to talk about the Libra Meta Goddess moving through the signs, and then questions, and then blocks around the underworld, talk about home play, and then we're going to go through and do some breakout sessions because we want the time for each of you, everyone who wants to really have a deeper conversation about this journey we've been on. So that's our outline.
Yay! I love it. Okay, so charge of the Dark Goddess. Now, this is something I learned, the charge of the goddess, not the Dark Goddess, many years ago. I actually memorized it and could recite it. I can't anymore because one of those things you don't practice, you don't use it, you lose it, kind of thing. But this just feels so connected to what it is that we're encountering here in the deep dark underworld, and really how the Dark Goddess is a part of all of us, and how we when we acknowledge her and we embrace her, that she is within us, that is such a powerful transformative piece. So do you want to start, Tammy?
Sure. Hear me, child, and know me for who I am. I have been with you since you were born, and I will stay with you until you return to me at the final dusk.
I am the passionate and seductive lover who inspires the poet to dream. I am the one who calls you at the end of your journey. After the day is done, my children find their blessed rest in my embrace.
I am the womb from which all things are born. I am the shadowy, still tomb. All things must come to me and bear their breasts to die and be reborn to the whole.
I am the sorceress that will not be ruled, the weaver of time, the teacher of mysteries. I snip the threads that bring my children home to me.
I am the sorceress that will not be ruled, the weaver of time, the teacher of mysteries. I snip the threads that bring my children home to me.
Guess I had that in there twice.
I know, right? I saw that too.
I
Thanks for
slit the
feeding.
throats of the cruel and drink the blood of the heartless. I am the fury that rips the flesh from injustice. Come to me and you will discover true beauty, strength, and courage.
I am the glowing forge that transforms your inner demons into tools of power. Open yourself to my embrace and overcome.
I am the glinting sword that protects you from all harm. I am the crucible in which all aspects of yourself merge in a rainbow of union.
I am the velvet depths of the night sky, the swirling mists of midnight, shrouded in mystery. I am the chrysalis in which you face that terrifies you, and from where you will blossom forth, vibrant and renewed.
Seek me at the crossroads and you shall be transformed, for once you look upon my face, there is no return.
I am the fire that kisses the shackles away. I am the cauldron in which all opposites grow to know each other in truth.
I am the web that connects all things. I am the healer of all wounds, the warrior who rights all wrongs in their time.
I make the weak strong. I make the arrogant humble. I raise up the oppressed and empower the disenfranchised.
I am justice tempered with mercy.
Most importantly, child, I am you. I am part of you, and I am within you. Seek me within and without, and you will be strong.
Know me, venture into the dark so you may awaken the balance, illumination, and fullness.
Take my love with you everywhere and find the power within to be who you wish.
Okay, so hopefully that gets you inspired about, because I think sometimes the dark goddess she is formidable and scary, and, coming face to face with her, when Inanna came face to face with her, she died. Literally, and then was brought back to life. So, this is really what we're looking at now as we go into this next gate. So on June 30th, you can see the moon here between the horns of the bull. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. Venus kind of at the edge here with the two tips of the horns of the bull. And this is probably around 4:30 a.m. Where I am, I have a mountain in the northeast. And so I'm not seeing Venus now, but some of you may still be able to see her if you have a low horizon line. And then on July 1st, we'll be at the gate, that exact gate. And so this is what the sky will look like that morning if you're able to see Venus and the moon. You don't have, your horizon line doesn't have a big mountain there. And again, this is around 4:20 in the morning, and we can see the moon is at 22 Gemini, Venus is at 27 Gemini, and so later that day is when the exact conjunction is happening at 2:48 p.m. Pacific time, so that's 5:48 p.m. Eastern time. You can adjust for your time zone. And then the next day, July 2nd, we're going to have a total solar eclipse. And so we will not see the moon. So usually, if you've been following along with this and going out and looking over the 3 days, the 3-day window of the Venus gate, you see the moon approaching Venus, you see the moon with Venus, and then you see the moon having passed by Venus. Not going to happen this time. So on July, July 3rd, Venus is going to be right on the galactic cross. Now, this is something that we talked about, and if you haven't had a chance to listen to or sign up for the solstice event we did free from the Shamanic Astrology Mystery School on Saturday, we talked about the galactic cross, and this is it. This is the plane of the galaxy intersecting the plane of the solar system. And whenever a planet is at 0 Cancer, it's right on that cross. And that's where the sun was on June 21st. Actually, it's there for at least the 20th, 21st, and 22nd. And then by July 2nd, this is early in the morning. You won't see the moon because it's so close to Venus. And but what's interesting is that we're going to have this total solar eclipse, not visible here. with the star Alpena. I'll just explain a little bit more about that in a moment. So, so basically something to note is that on June 27th, this is where Venus is with the star Alheka and Elnath. These are the horns of the bull. And then in 2012, this purple star is where Venus was when Venus transited the face of the sun. At the end of the cycle we're in now was 8 years earlier. And then in 2020, this is where Venus will be again as it gets ready to start a new cycle. So between the horns of the bull. And so what I just wanted to do is, and some people will say, wow, those are really big bull's horns. Aldebaran's the eye of the bull, and then the horns just extend out from there. So this amazing bull creature is to show you that that is not something that could be impossible to see, like really big horns on the bull. And because what's going to happen with the next Venus gate, like this Venus gate is kind of preparing us for that as we descend into the underworld and are connecting into the mysteries that are happening now. Venus currently, right now, in between the horns of the bull as we do this class, and by the 27th we'll be on the aligned with the tips of the horns of the bull, and then Venus will be with Aldebaran in 2020 as it rises into the morning sky, and then by July 16th, the first Venus gate is going to be close to being here between the horns of the bull. And this is something that many ancient cultures saw when there was a new moon, a crescent new moon, or waning crescent moon. They would know with the horns of the bull, they would know that we were at a turning of an age. So just wanting to bring this forth and just kind of dream into it just a little bit as we're starting to feel into what our underworld time is about. And the thing about the horns of the bull is that many of the cultures, Greeks, the Egyptians, and there's others who saw this as the gateway to the Elysian fields, to that place of, the garden of earthly delight, the place where everything's blessed, there's peace, it's delightful, it's beautiful, it's like a fun place to hang out. So we want to just acknowledge this and then really ask ourselves if we're willing to embrace this possibility, and if so, are we ready? And if we're not ready, then what would we need to do to be ready? You can access more of this information at this article, but just wanted to do this brief introduction about the horns of the bull.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, and this is just an image of the some artists imagining of the Elysium, this place of sort of the garden, that, I don't know, heaven on earth place. One way to say that. Anything more you want to say about that, Tammy?
Oh, just that I bet a lot of other people feel this right now, but I know that it has felt like that this last spring, for me at least. I feel like the openings into this world have been it's just like this pulsing thing. It's there, it's right there. It's like this world within, it's right immediately present. It's so incredible.
And
but
we call it forth. It will become more. It will
become, yes, right, which is what this work is all about.
Exactly.
But I just love everything that you just brought in with the horns of the bull, because as many times as I've seen Galactic Edge, to just see the way that you articulated it with the horns, I'd just never seen that before. It's so powerful.
Beautiful. So then, so July 1st, we have the Venus Moon Gate. July 2nd, we're still in the Venus Moon Gate because it's, the day after that 3-day window. But we're having a total solar eclipse. And of course, it won't be visible in the US, but if you happen to be fortunate enough to be in the Pacific or in South America, like in places like Ecuador or Brazil or Uruguay or Paraguay, they will be seeing, some of the places will be seeing, I think Chile is seeing, and Argentina are seeing the full eclipse, and then these other places are seeing a partial eclipse. we're probably not going to see anything here. But the eclipses are these acceleration points. They're these massive activations. And so, just, it's so interesting that as Venus is at this 8th gate, death by intent, working with this Earth Star chakra, there's this massive activation happening in Cancer, where really, I always like to say Cancer 101 is learning how to nurture ourselves first. And that from a place of strength, then we can nurture others if we've nurtured ourselves. But if we're not strong, and if we've been giving all our energy away and taking care of everybody else, it eventually takes us out. I've seen this happen over and over again for lots of women in my generation or slightly older, where they've just given and given and given, and then they wind up, getting some illness, cancer, or something that takes them out at a young age. Happened to my mom. Anyway, 2 weeks later, we're going to have a partial lunar eclipse in Capricorn, and that will close the eclipse cauldron that's being opened with the total solar eclipse on July 2nd. And what's interesting is that in that eclipse cauldron, the moon is going to occult Saturn and Pluto at the around that same time. And these are features that we're going to experience with Venus in the underworld time as well. So anything more about that, Tammy?
No, just everything you were saying about the Cancer mysteries and the women. I just, let's maybe really set deep intentions for ourselves personally, and knowing that to the degree that we claim self-care, especially if we're giving a lot in the world, let's just also know that as we practice that, we're blessing our ancestors, our descendants, and all the women around us, and modeling that.
Yes.
It's really important.
And then we need to die to all the ways we haven't done that in the past, so we can be reborn to the ways we can do that are healthy, vibrant, and gonna, be sustainable into the future.
Yes. Beautiful. Yes.
Back in 1999, there was a total solar eclipse in Leo, and I love The Lord of the Rings, and I came across this thing from Tolkien, who basically, he says, all that is gold does not glitter, not all that who wander are lost. The old that is strong does not wither. Deep roots are not reached by the frost. From the ashes of fire shall be woken, a light from the shadow shall spring, renewed shall be blade that was broken, the crownless again shall be king. And I always feel like this is kind of definitely connected to a Leo eclipse. Well, in 2017, we had a Leo eclipse, and I was looking at these words, and I feel like these words really describe an eclipse, because what happens is the shadow of the moon crosses the face of the sun, and literally in a total solar eclipse, day turns to night, your whole world gets kind of turned upside down. It's like this, the barometric pressure drops, the birds stop singing, the flowers close up. It's crazy like that. And then suddenly, and you can see it in this image, it's like this light springs from the shadow. So I thought, from a feminine perspective, or from the perspective of the goddess, we could rewrite those words to say, from the ashes of fire shall be woken, a light from the shadows shall gleam, renewed shall be all that was broken, the crownless again shall be queen. So we can tune into this eclipse energy, because eclipses really are about accelerating what we're holding in intention. Because we're experiencing 2 days, we're experiencing a speeded up time. And essentially, even in a total solar eclipse, it's like day turns to night and back to day again, like that. And in a total lunar eclipse, we see all the phases of the moon that usually take almost 30 days and a few hours. So there's this acceleration that's taking place.
Absolutely. Wow.
Yeah. So, anything else? Anything more about that?
No, it's so powerful.
All right, so here is where this eclipse is taking place, in the constellation of the Twins, with the star Alhena, within a degree, approximately about a degree of the star. And it is on the left foot of the immortal twin, Pollux. And one of the things that there's a whole article you can connect into. We're not going to go into a ton of detail on this, but from Manlius, who wrote about this star in the 1st century, a lot of times the stars have very negative descriptions. So I wanted to include this because it's like a more positive description. So that this star really represents a more agreeable way of life provided by varied song and voices of harmonious tone. Those so endowed find even work a pleasure, a life of ease and unfading youth spent in the arms of love. They also discover paths to the skies, complete a survey of the heavens with numbers and measurements, and outstrip the flight of the stars. Nature yields to the genius serving all things. And so this, to me, feels like an amazing intention to connect into this total solar eclipse. Even if we're not seeing it, we're still impacted by it. So
Yes.
I wanted to share that.
And I love that you found that, because that's my IC. It's like, wow.
Right? Yeah, so if you have a personal connection here, this is even more personally activating for you.
Yeah, look for that. If it's within just a few degrees.
Yeah. Like I would say even 6 degrees on either side of that. Yeah. Absolutely. So, and then Venus is, we see Venus is over here as we're doing this class, and then it's going to come and be on the galactic cross, and then it's going to come and travel through the twins, and then it'll be moving outside of, Castor and Pollux mark the outside of the sacred hoop, and Venus will, by July 24th, will be moving out, but it's going to be so close to the sun, because it's on the underworld, we won't see it. But I just wanted people to have a star map to kind of get a sense of what's happening. So when you're looking at the sun, you can imagine these stars and Venus being there as it tracks across the sky all day long over the month of July, particularly as we get into the end of July and so on. But really this whole month of July, we've got Venus moving into the twins and through the twins and then past. So. And then this is just something, if you want to keep track, the moon will activate the eclipse point once each month. Alhenna, the star Alhenna, and that intention, it'll be reactivated once each month. So these are the dates that you can tune into with that. And so, and then just because we've got Venus traveling through the underworld for July, August, and into September, it's like from July 8th to September 19th, we've got this thing going on. So there's a lot of things happening. We've got the Mercury retrograde from July 7th to the 31st. That's like a deepening, going deeper back, and things don't operate in their normal way in our left brain consensus, rational, logical reality. So we got that going on. August 7th will be the exact cross quarter when the sun reaches 15 degrees Leo, the halfway point between the June solstice and the September equinox. On July 22nd, the sun's going to enter Leo. And then we have this whole list of events that are happening. I'm not going to go through all of them, but we will be talking about Venus with Pluto. And then this is also just the path of the eclipse on July 2nd, the path of the eclipse. And then in 2020, there will be another eclipse that is kind of below that going through there. So I thought that might be fun just for people to be able to see that. But the thing that we really want to also bring forth here is that Venus and Mars will be making their underworld sacred union, meeting at 4 degrees Virgo. And it's invisible to us because it's with the sun. They're with the sun. And this happens every 6.5 years, but in this part of the sky in this season, every 32 years. So this was happening 32 years ago, it was happening 64 years ago, it was happening 96 years ago, so it's not something that happens all that often. And Tammy and I did a webinar with Daniel and Eric on what it all means, so we're not going to spend time sharing that with you now. If you're interested, you can look that up on the Shamanic Astrology website. But just to know, this is very significant. It's the sacred union between the feminine and the masculine. that is going to be happening in this underworld, and it doesn't happen every Venus cycle. So, anything more, Tammy?
No, I just think it's kind of bewildering. Well, just one thing. It's just that today I was just realizing that, Venus has been very deeply engaged with the whole Neptune, the Jupiter-Neptune square. And so Venus, this whole year in 2019, Jupiter has been squaring Neptune. And at the first square, Venus was very close to conjunct Jupiter in January, right before an eclipse. And then April 10th, Venus was with Neptune. And today, Venus is squaring Neptune, Jupiter. And it's like there's the way I've been feeling it is it's like the voice of the goddess is like she's coming through with an oracle today in the next few days or whatever. So I love that we're doing the class today. She's just been so present over this last, not just through the Venus cycle, but just so much an undercurrent to everything else that's happening. So I'm just really excited, weird word, but I'm excited about the underworld passage and everything that is already stirring for all of us.
Beautiful. So something that, everything that's happening while Venus is in the underworld is important. But the reason that we're going to focus on Pluto is because Pluto is the underworld initiation. So when Venus, the last cycle that we did, in the Aries cycle, Venus was conjunct Pluto during the underworld time. And now Venus is opposite Pluto. And so the exact conjunction is July 21st. They're going to kind of be within 10 degrees from July 13th to the 29th. And it can magnify the underworld intent. So, if we're feeling powerlessness in our external reality, if we're trying to force surrender through, or being forced into surrender through events that are intended to expose our false beliefs that have defined who we think we are, that can be magnified at this particular time. So it really is time to practice surrender as much as possible so that we can release that false self, so that whatever habits we have that may be self-sabotaging, or how we justify our behavior, or when we have weak moments, we're self-critical, we can have addictions, or we can be out of control, or we have a need for revenge or manipulation and asserting power over others. That probably isn't going to work as well at this time with Venus in the underworld, with Pluto. So the other thing that can happen is that whether you are born a shadow magnet or not, or a catalyst for shadows, especially if you're in your Venus return, or you have specific things that are, say you're in a Pluto cycle, you may find that you're as a catalyst for bringing the shadow to light, whether you want to or not, is going to be magnified as well. So feeling what you feel in a safe way. That doesn't mean go and yell at people. Maybe yell at your pillow.
Or yell in your car.
Right, yell and you scream in your car.
That helps.
Go out into the wilderness and throw things or whatever. But feeling what you feel, but not to project it onto anybody else. But that's so helpful when in the underworld, and that time where we're really being asked to feel what we feel. And the thing is you can't get out of this by being good enough, or by being good, so to speak. And I just love this little bird who's being rained on or snowed on or something. And it's not that the bird is doing anything wrong and it can't get out of it. It's like, oh, I'm just here, I'm surrendered, I'm having this experience. And sometimes we find ourselves like free falling, or there's nothing we can do. We're just like in this free fall. So the recommendation is to dive, like this woman is, and she looks like she's diving into the rocks.
She's really not.
She's not really, but that's what it looks like. But it could feel that way, right?
Oh boy, yeah. Well, I just want to mention something about that quickly too, with Pluto and Capricorn, and is that it's also not just Pluto, it's Pluto with Saturn and the South Node in Capricorn. And so this whole time we've been in this whole Venus journey in Libra, there's also been this corresponding kind of Capricorn Saturn thing where we're asked to let go of whatever's going on in the realm of Saturn that's not working, or Capricorn that's not working for us, and move into the Cancer mysteries in a positive way. So Venus is going to be helping us do that now.
Yeah.
So self-nurturing for sure. Profound self-nurturing.
And you're bringing up something really important, Tammy, because we're speeding towards 2020 when Jupiter will join the whole mix, and a rare alignment that is really about how do we dismantle the old structures that don't work anymore clearly, and then and create the space, die to them so we can create the space for something new to come in. And it's not unlike the caterpillar becoming the butterfly, because what happens with the caterpillar is it just starts consuming like mad. Doesn't even know why. It just consumes, and then suddenly makes a chrysalis around itself. It dissolves. It basically dies to its caterpillar self, and then it's reborn into a butterfly. So this underworld time is really about the challenges that bring great gifts to us, and and really finding the treasure that's buried within our fear and pain and rage. And I always imagine the caterpillar in the cocoon when it's dissolving is like, oh crap. What have I done? And it's like it could have done something different to get out of this initiation. No, it's just time for this to happen. So this is designed to help reveal our greatest strengths and personal gifts. It's quite an amazing time. So it's always remembering the power of surrender to the process, trusting that process, and we'll get through this. We'll keep posting on Facebook if you need help.
Yes, and there have been some really amazing posts and a lot of sharing, and it's such a nurturing, supportive community. And we'll continue to be through the underworld process. We keep it open, regardless of whether you've signed up for the evening star or not yet. So this is a very brief little flash here where Venus has been in the sign of Gemini primarily through the 7th chakra gate, but now she's moving through the Death by Intent, Earth Star chakra gate, just for a very brief moment. So she's a shapeshifter. The biggest piece I feel with this is just that it has to do with all of the ways that our monkey mind has a way of, especially as we get more into the deeper realms, to try to just claw its way out. It's just kind of like, no, like help me just be the same person I've been. Like whatever I can do. Okay, it's not been working, but it's more comfortable, and I want to keep maintaining the status quo, and the mind is so good at that, and it's just not working. So it's time to surrender that whatever patterns of the mind are really not working for you. And also false narratives. So you might choose to do a little bit of ceremony specifically on this day, because it's a very potent day, when our little frame of time where Venus is in Gemini. And it's also a time, like all of these gates, to liberate ourselves, to let go of, free ourselves of whatever helps us or whatever keeps us from the highest expression of this. So playfulness, like when we surrender our self-importance, and when we surrender the mind, which tells us we need to be a certain way, then playfulness may be able to even survive this underworld journey.
We can hope. This would be a great time to create that intention.
Yes, exactly. To be able to laugh at it.
Right?
So, but the majority of the time that she's, or a good portion of time that she's in the underworld and in the Death by Intent gate, she is moving through Cancer, and also will be activating Pluto. So she dies to all the ways she has mothered others, but never herself. She dies to the belief that she can only be valued for her ability to caretake and nurture. She dies to any and all false narratives, energetic cords, or limiting beliefs, binding her to the relational and mother trauma of the women in her ancestral line. And that is so potent and activated right now with the Capricorn convergence. She gives the pain and sorrow she has held in her womb to the heart of the earth, where it is received and transformed into overflowing love and energy for healing. And as she meets and releases the mother wound within herself, she heals her ancestors and descendants. She opens now to intimacy in all forms, where she receives nurturance and care, and to support her growth and her deepest dreams, and to support her in this underworld journey.
Beautiful. I love that.
So there's quite a few questions here, but the biggest piece for questions for Libra at the Death by Intent and Earth Star Chakra Gate. For those of you who haven't watched it yet, we have the video, the video that we've already posted that's about the Death by Intent, Earth Star Chakra Gate. So if you haven't, you'll want to go through that as well. But for Libra specifically, some of the questions might be, how have I given up? Do you want to read this one, Kaylin?
Oh, yeah. How have I given up being myself to be in relationship, trying to be what I perceive others want me to be? I have noticed this with some Libra, people who are like doing Libra for the first time, how much they do that. And I may have been guilty of that in the past myself.
Right.
It's easier to see in others, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It can be so subtle and hidden in ourselves.
Right?
So what relationship dynamics have I outgrown and am ready to die to? And that's, we may be so close to it right now, we can't see or feel it, but let's, give the space for clarity around that. Like what growth have we already, where are we ready to die to those things? What would it take for me to die to everything that holds me back from true intimacy and relational depth I desire? Where am I just kind of skating in the shallows? And Kaylin.
What will it take for me to face any fears of being alone, unwanted, unloved, being less than or not good enough, or betrayed?
Yeah, that's intense.
It's a better world.
Yeah. What's real? What would it take for me to die to any and all inherited patterns of belief, self-sabotage, or limitation around love and intimacy? What did I have passed down to me that I am really ready to bury now? Where is my relationship to the earth out of balance? Am I willing to surrender into a new, restorative, and mutually supportive relationship now? And I'm just going to say a really quick story about that, which is that, Cindy Dale talks a lot about the 10th chakra or the Earth Star chakra. And one of the things she says about it is that if we're out of balance there, we will tend to attune to the pain that lives in the earth, and we'll kind of absorb that ourselves. And so if any of us have that tendency, it's just to really get clear in our minds and our whole hearts, our souls. We're here to serve Gaia. We're here to serve the earth. But that doesn't serve the earth when we're crippled, and because we're so aligned with her suffering that we can't come into right alignment with ourselves. So if that's you, if you are so sensitive environmentally to what's happening to the earth around you, that you take that into your body and your system more than what simply catalyzes empathy and compassion and action, then you might wish to also do a deep giveaway and dropping of that tendency and really ask that be transformed into strength. So, yeah.
I love that. That's such that's awesome.
I know I've had that, and I know a lot of people do. So, all right. So the Libra Meta Goddess at Earth Star Chakra, I also just to honor, this is something that's come through so strongly for me this last year, and I think it has to do also with Taurus and Uranus and Taurus, is that Libra's not just about human relationships. Of course, we love our other humans and we need to learn to care for each other, but that's not the only relationship we're in. We're also in what David Abrams, he's an amazing author, he first coined as the more than human world. So what barriers are in the way of deep intimacy and heart-to-heart connection and conversation between ourselves, the land, sky, plants, creatures, elementals, ancestors, in our own ancestral lineage, as well as the spirits of the land where we live? What is ours to attune to and be in conscious relationship with, and what is not? Again, there might even be angry energies or spirits in the land where you live, and from what I've been learning in the last couple of years, it's often not for us to heal that necessarily individually. It's the earth will heal that, and we can do our own healing, and that soothes those energies as well. How would it look and feel to be in ecstatic communion with the earth spirits where we live, including the benevolent ancestors of our spiritual and blood lineage? What does that look and feel like? I think a lot of us have begun to really, really feel that. What must be released to live that reality? So this is much like what Kaylin was saying with the Eleusinian. How do you say it?
Eleusinian mysteries.
Okay. I'm always confused by how to say that word.
and the Eleusinian fields.
Okay. Elysian. All right. Awesome.
Elysian fields. Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah. So some of the Libra blocks that might be experienced in the underworld, and these are just a few to get you started because you probably can, think of others, but perhaps the block for you is being vulnerable. It's not easy. It takes a tremendous courage, as we talked about in the last class, to literally show up and be vulnerable. Not an easy thing to do. Maybe being terrified of being alone, even if you're in a relationship that's miserable, or you have more than one relationship that's miserable. It's like sometimes we actually can't get out of it. I've been connecting with a lot of people recently who are taking care of parents that are dying or in their last bit, but they can't take care of themselves anymore, and it's not an easy relationship, and they just have to figure out how to make the best of it because it's what they're being called to do, and it has nothing to do. They can't make a different decision at this point other than how they're going to embrace this reality. So and then how we may have surrendered to others' needs or desires, not even knowing what our own are, or even aware that our personal needs aren't being met. Boy, that was such a big revelation to me when I realized that in my first 2 marriages that was happening. And that I didn't even know that I got to have my own needs be met. Like, that was a concept. So that's something that definitely is worth tuning into and checking out. And then how we might sacrifice our authentic self to be in relationship to others. And we kind of talked about this already, like, trying to show up and be who we think somebody wants us to be. And the thing I found out about that is that even if we're doing that, it's probably not what the other person wants anyway. It's just what we think they want. And then we're trying to be that, and nobody's happy.
And that happens so much. It's so sad.
Right? And then being so busy showing up for what you believe others want from you, so you're not showing up for yourself. Yeah. So that's just to kind of get you started. You might find some other blocks you might have around that, particularly around the relational realms.
I'll just speak to that really quickly to say, I don't know, there may be others here that are in the same situation, but I think for myself, in this Libra cycle, I'm finally at the place, even as you're talking, Kaylin, where I realize what I really want to transform and deeply drop is my attachment to being in a partnership. I have to kind of let that go. Like, have to let it just be up to spirit. I'm not doing any spells. I'm not doing whatever. I'm just like, what would it be like to be okay with just being, because I've not had much of my adult life being single, and it's been a little bit hard, but it's like how to surrender attachment to that. So for me, that's mine.
Yeah.
So home play so one of the things that I remember learning from Daniel a long time ago when I first got a reading that was very useful with this whole paradigm was that before you go to the underworld, before I began my Pluto cycle, he said, you really want to be strong before you get into a Pluto cycle. And it's very similar, with this Venus initiation. We are going down to the underworld. There's a lot that we are healing, releasing. We've been strengthening each other all along the way. But it can be useful, kind of like when you consider that even Inanna asked that Ninshabar would be able to be there and come there and be with her, in a sense, in her underworld initiation, that it can be good to have strong roots of support in our journey. So at this home play that I offered, and there also is home play that is in the document that Kaylin had uploaded, and also through the video that we've already posted. But here's something in addition, which is that we get to connect to our true source of power, because this is about releasing our false sources of power in the underworld. So we surrender the false belief that we are alone in the universe, and we claim our true lineage. So in this whole Capricorn convergence aspect, I've been thinking a lot about lineage. So take time in your Venus journal, if you wish, if this resonates for you, to explore your relationship with the following, including creating an invocation to honor them, perhaps, maybe a vision board, maybe find objects for your altar to represent key sources of power, or you might just, make a list and leave it at that. You can make a video naming your lineage, but you claim these sources of true strength or your soul lineage so it can support you during your underworld initiation. And I bring that up now because we're talking about the Earth Star Chakra Gate, which has to do with ancestral lineage, and also that there is a big activation again of that South Node, Capricorn, and Saturn. So you can make a list, just a simple list, and I'll do this like making a circle and then drawing them around the circle in a circle of 12 by strengthening spiritual ancestors. So who, like I would think of Sekhmet, for example, as one of those, or Inanna. Strengthening blood ancestors. So I'm going to draw around that circle. Who are my relatives in the blood form? If I have them, ancestors or even current relatives who are strengthening to me. Sacred landscapes shaping me and their original people. So what landscapes have I visited that have deeply informed me? I carry them within me and who lived there originally. And then plants and animals that are lineage holders for me. This has been useful for me to make these little, again, mandalas where I name all the plants and all the animals that hold me. Stones and crystals that strengthen me. You know, I have those, so many of those on my altar, and they're already there, but just to honor them. And then sky lineage, of course. In the chart specifically, you might even consider your moon sign, the South Node, your IC, and the stars connected to these things. If you have the ability to kind of look that up, or if you know any of this, even just your moon, to really draw on those energies. Again, even just making a list, or if you want to bring that into your altar in some form.
Love that. Awesome. So now I think we've got lots of time.
We have lots of time? What time is it?
We've got a half hour to do this. Yeah, we do.
Awesome. Yay, good. You were so
us.
I was just like, we don't have time to do. I was kind of frustrated. I was feeling the underworld energy already. I was like, we don't have time to do Chart to the Goddess. And Kaylin's like, I really want to do it. And I'm like, I don't want to do it. And I'm not usually an overtly conflictive person. So Kaylin, that was very interesting. I was like, anyway, so that was interesting underworld dynamic. So how cool is that? Wow, we really did we did some weird timeline thing.
Right? I think the Dark Goddess is really happy she got it.
Maybe my Gemini moon wasn't really so into the Dark Goddess for a minute. I've been guilty of that. Okay, surrendering. All right, so for those of you who read the last two emails that have been sent out, there's been mention of if you wanted to kind of do some preparatory work, that's great for the breakout session we're going to do here in a minute. It's not necessary. I'm just going to say, basically, I think, what do you think? 15 minutes, Kaylin, and then just a Q&A?
And then 15 minutes to come back and share.
Yeah. Yeah, it's 15 minutes. Let's see. Actually, if we're going to do a breakout, it'll be with two people. So the way this will work is I'm going to put you in rooms basically randomly, but it always works out perfectly in terms of who ends up with who. And then you're each going to be able to connect with each other and have some time to share back and forth about your experiences so far in the Libra Venus Morningstar journey. So before we do the breakout, I'm going to invite you just to take a moment. If you've got a journal, great, or get a piece of paper so you can kind of write this down. Because once you end up in that room, you may not necessarily have access to these questions. So
maybe you should put 3 people in, because that gives everybody 5 minutes.
Huh. That would be, yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
So, okay, that sounds great. So 5 minutes per person, 3 people per room. Hopefully we've got the right number. And there will always be some people who end up with me and Kaylin, so that's fun too. All right, so the options are, you can simply just share from the heart what happened. You talk for 5 minutes about what's been going on for you in the Morningstar phase. You might even take this time to say, look, I've got something that I'm really struggling with and I need support with this, so please can you hold space for me? If you want to keep it simple, maybe everybody will do that. Second option might be that if you've done a little work already to find an object that represents what you're ready to release, or any of the things we talked about in the email, just like an invocation, or I always get all complicated, but anything else you've prepared. And then, so you may do that. Or, again, if there's something specific you want to remember to write down for this, are there any limiting or harmful patterns you're releasing in relationship with yourself, your beloved, your intimate partner, family members, close friends, opposite gender? Like, you know, as a woman, I've been releasing I've been healing around my relationship with men big time. Living earth, cosmos magic, like where have you felt shut down and like you're not able to connect heart to heart with the earth? Anything else? So maybe take a moment to connect with that question and say, okay, is there something I'd like to share in any of those areas that I've really been doing some good work in? And or, again, like I sort of mentioned before, is there a place I keep getting stuck? Is there a place that I really need help with this? Like, I feel like it's impossible for me to move beyond this pattern that keeps showing up. So if that's there, I really highly suggest being vulnerable enough to offer that to the little circle you'll be in, or at the very end in Q&A, so that we can hold this together. We're stronger together. And this is a Libra circle after all. So, so that's one option. And then there's something I've been practicing, which is conscious complaining. So, you know, this is kind of the same thing, right? You might be saying, oh my God, like I'm still having this issue with my mom and it's driving me crazy and I don't feel like I'll ever grow up. Up your thymus. And this is what happened and it was horrible. And then make it big and talk about it. You might do that. Elise.
I wanted to say that can be so helpful. There's times where either Peter will come to me and vent, or I will go to him and vent. And we, you know, we'll always start out by saying, this isn't about you. I just need to get this. I just need to talk. I just need to be like, whatever. And then, you know, do the venting. And it's not usually about them anyway. It's about somebody else or something else. And it's so like freeing. And often what Peter does for me is he's like, I am totally on your side on this. And I'm like, I'm not asking you to be on my side, just wanting you to feel
it kind of feels good, right?
right. Anyway.
Oh, man. Okay, that's awesome. Okay, then the other questions, I don't know. What would it take to surrender it? How would my life feel different? You know, so it might be that by the end, this is just 5 minutes, but if you wish to do this, you might also say, hey, I'd like your support in helping me describe how this might feel when it's transformed. So that's a lot of different options. Okay. Hopefully not just tune into your gut, whatever you want to share. Oh, people are dropping off. They're afraid. They're afraid of the breakout session. Don't be afraid. It's not scary.
People aren't willing to face their fear as we're going to.
Oh, it's okay. You're all good. All right. So I'm going to do this 3. Okay. Okay. So 16. So 15. So, okay. 5 rooms. And there's always a little lag time. So it'll just take a minute. I'm going to unmute all of you once I do this. Okay. So I'm just going to automatically assign you. All right. And hopefully this should work.
You're inviting to breakout room 3. Okay. Join.
It'll just take a minute. Okay. Now I've got to manage and unmute everyone.
It says I got invited to breakout room 1.
It does?
Yep.
Uh-oh. Are you going to go? Are you leaving?
No, we should be doing this probably.
You should help. Okay, if you disappear, then I'm gonna I'm gonna check the breakout rooms again.
Right, so we're still recording. So whatever you and I say.
Okay. Yeah. I just want to make sure everybody's in their rooms really quickly. Okay, this looks good. All right, they should all be joined. Well, this is perfect.
Right?
Oh my gosh, awesome. I don't know how they knew for us to be together. I didn't, but here we are. Okay.
Well, I didn't go into my breakout room. I stayed here. So.
Oh, that's why. Thank you for staying. That would have been lonely.
And so I feel inspired to share a little bit about my, because I've been in my Mars return, and I've got.
Yes, we both are.
Right, I've got Chiron squaring my Mars. And so I've been really getting an opportunity to deal with my masculine wounding that goes all the way back to my father. And there's people that are currently in my reality that have been giving me an amazing opportunity. And this is one of the things I've been venting to Peter about.
Wow.
I can't believe it's, it's around not feeling like I'm being heard, that I'm being valued, that I'm, all these, it's really not that it's the other person at all. It's really about me having the opportunity to see what's triggering me and why, and to work with that.
Right.
It's been really powerful. And I'm like, wow, this really started with my mother. Okay, thank you, Chiron, to my Mars and my Mars. Mars will be in the underworld while Venus is in the underworld, so I'll probably get some more opportunity to work on that. And but I want to also just say, and this is for anybody who might be listening to this and is also dealing with Mars or their issues around the masculine, is that one of the things I can look at and realize I have made like light years of progress because I am married to Peter Anthony Klein, who happens to meet me in all the ways I want to be met, who loves me for who I am and not who he wants me to be, who celebrates who I am every single day, who takes time out to just tell me how amazing he is and that he has the best life he could ever imagine. He never thought he'd ever be in a relationship like he is in with me now, because he had a really bad first marriage. And I think he had kind of given up and didn't think that, every relationship after that was not really that great either. And so he's like, I never could have imagined that I could be in something so good. So I know I have really done the work, and there's still these pieces that I'm working on. It has nothing to do with him. It has to do with it has to do with the other things that he's not, and he's not reflecting to me, but he will listen to me vent.
Wow.
Or consciously complain, as you were sharing about. And so it's just been so remarkable. And so I feel, when I think about that from that perspective, like I'm, I may still have some things that I like to be different, but wow, I've been really good. I can pat myself on the back for that.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So there's hope. And even beyond that, there's like this huge opportunity to be in a really conscious, collaborative, co-creative relationship where I get to be loved the ways I want to be loved, met the ways I want to be met, communicated with in the ways I want to be communicated with. I get to do that for him, and we just have this beautiful exchange that happens every single day.
Wow.
So this stuff works.
That's so powerful.
Yeah. So, I may have some underworld, whatever. I might have to pull my hair a little. I don't know. But I'm very hopeful going into the underworld, and I'm willing to face whatever I need to face around any of this, around the relationship with the masculine.
That sounds like a really potent declaration. I love that. That's such a strong way to be in the underworld. That's the strength part.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah. You still have more time, Kaylin, if you want. Are we
I do. Oh, really? Oh, yeah, because there's only two of us.
Two of us. We have more time. Woohoo. So you've got a full, what would it be, 7.5 minutes. So, you've got like 4 more minutes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
What else? Brag on yourself some more.
Oh, yeah, I should probably talk about how I've not handled something so well recently and been very upset and frustrated and, spitting nails, as they say, or whatever, spitting fire. Like, oh my God. Yeah. And I mean, really recently, not in the last few days, but it was the last couple months. It's been pretty intense.
Yeah.
So, I was thinking about my, the last time I went into the underworld in 2011. It was in
2010, 2011, yeah.
2011.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so the last time this Venus cycle was happening in the summer of 2011, when I was age 56. And that's when I was spending all that time with the sun and tuning into, okay, I see the sun crossing the sky, and I know Venus is right there with the sun, and really tuning into what does that mean? It's like Venus is with this bright light, and just having, like, it was a very magical, amazing time, so different than the time before, where I was having an issue with the masculine. When I was 48, my second marriage, and all of that was disintegrating and falling apart. And no matter what I did, I couldn't save it or fix it or make it be different. Yeah. So, and I feel like I'm in a really good place this time too, but definitely just that idea that we don't always know what we're going to face. And so, you know, I could have another Venus return down the road and it could be challenging. But right now I feel like the challenges that I'm having to face are somewhat minor. Like in the overall scheme of things, life is really good right now.
Well, you don't have to have these hopefully super dramatic external things because you're doing the internal work.
Yeah, exactly.
Not that it always works that way, but
No. Right.
Yeah. Wow.
So, you know, that at my age 48 Venus return, I was really getting to see the shadow of what hadn't been aware of or wanted to be aware of. And a lot of that actually came up around my father as well. And
right. That was at 48.
Yeah, abuse issues and all kinds of things that my second husband also had, and he was displaying, and I'm like, oh my God, he's my father. And if I would say something to him about it, it's like, man, you're reminding me of my dad. He's like, I am not your dad.
Wow.
We just get mad, and then, you know, and I was like, I walked on eggshells for months. It was hell. It was the worst hell. It was just awful. So at age 32, I went through a similar thing with my first husband.
Your first husband, right? Yeah. That's right. Your Venus returns have been really, well, and that was another Mars return. So that makes sense.
Yeah. That was the one 32 years ago. But really those two are the ones that were the worst.
Oh.
Yeah. So I feel like I'm, you know, and again, as I was saying in the beginning, you know, like it's like when you're walking the labyrinth and you feel like you're really close to the center, and then you get swung way out.
Yes,
and then
that's so great.
Out, and then you get swung right into the center. You can't judge based on what's happening.
That's cool. That's a great example.
Yeah. Yeah. So I hope that's enough time now.
Yeah, you're great. You're perfect, actually. Exactly right. Okay, I love that you started with bragging. I'm going to start with that. I've also, being in a Mars return as well, there's been a lot around the masculine, and it's been so literal, where I've just had finally very viscerally let go of a very unhealthy relationship just like a month before it started, just energetically, like strong energetic cord release. And then my brother had just died before too. And there's been a lot around my brother, potential sexual abuse and other things that I don't talk about a lot, but there's a lot around that you know, I've been navigating, and I've been doing a lot of deeper work around, and a lot of also observing what it's like for me to be single, and what it's like for me to do a lot of deep healing around that previous relationship last year, which was so intense. And seeing the places where I might want to immediately rush into another relationship. And I actually was very proud of myself because I did go, for me, it's also been healthy to explore it somewhat. So I explored this relationship in Mexico at Isla Mujeres. And then from that, I did something so different in that context than I've ever done in relationship before, where I was actually very attracted to the person. There were a lot of qualities that were good, but there were enough that weren't quite right that I was like, no, this isn't enough. This isn't okay. And I ended it without being ambivalent. I just ended it. And as a Gemini moon, that's a big deal. So for me, that was huge to have gone through that kind of growth in relationship with the masculine. And then since that time, I've been, you know, single and really focusing. I've come to recognize that this cycle is so much more for me about my relationship with myself, and the places where I've felt fragmented, the places where I've felt incongruent with myself. And really, also I've had to really get in touch with my instincts. And being someone who comes from a large family and, you know, kind of a good girl a lot in the past, I so much shut down my instincts so that I haven't always known what I wanted or what I didn't want. And when I did something because I wanted to, or because I felt like I wouldn't survive if I didn't do what other people wanted from me. And so I've had big learning around that in the last few months, where actually even like last week, I feel like some of the closest people in my life, I've been able to feel energetically the way that courting works. And I've had instances where I've had to make a decision that was better for me. It was what I needed to do, but it might have been very uncomfortable. I had a situation like that with a family member, and I felt how much this cord, this connection, so strong. This person is such a huge role model for me, and I wanted to do this thing with her, and I struggled with myself so much. But when I actually even stood up, I stayed out almost all night, like doing this vision quest, like, should I go? Should I do this thing? And the answer that came through really clearly was, no, it's not right for you to do this. And that was an initiation. It was a big initiation, because that next morning, or when I actually came in from being outside and I was meditating even more deeply, I felt like I almost had this voice or this feeling come over me, like that was a test, you know, and I had something opened in my ability to hear my own truth in that moment because of the decision that I'd made. And something happened for me where I was able to do this thing I hadn't been able to do for a while, which was really send light and energy at a distance in a really powerful way. So I feel like so much of it has been around just really claiming, sometimes in awkward ways, sometimes in ways that make me feel really uncomfortable, and that I end up having a lot of internal shame or guilt that I then need to have compassion around. Because for me, there's so much entangled around doing what other people want or what I will perceive of them as wanting from me, that sometimes I just have to be awkward or seemingly selfish to listen to my instinct and do what feels right for me. So it's messy and it's embarrassing sometimes and it's awkward, and I go through shame attacks, but I'm getting better at going there and then holding myself in compassion and reminding myself of why it is that I'm going through this messy process of self-claiming.
Beautiful.
So yeah, that's where I've been. And so I'm really proud of the fact that, you know, outside of, and there's one other thing with a guy where I've been noticing that the men now, I've been actually asking for men to show up for me, and, you know, as friends, and I've been attracting more relationships with men where they're allies. And it doesn't have to be this big, huge romantic thing. It's just they're allies and friends. And I've been playing with that. And it's so cool. And, you know, high quality men, like men who have integrity and like mind and who are well educated, you know, and that's interesting because I realized that I've usually not been with men who are at the same educational level as me, you know, whether it's a degree or just, you know, well-read or whatever. And in the most recent situation with someone I had encountered who I was attracted to, it was cool because I was attracted in such a way that I was inspired. I was deeply inspired by this person, authentically. And it made me think of what Ron Page, I can't remember his name, Ken Page says is attraction of deprivation versus attraction of inspiration. And it was you know, in the past, I've been attracted to men. Part of me wants to heal them. This was very different. So, and then I wasn't all in a rush to figure it out. It was just like, well, this is interesting. This is an attraction. It's fun. So the amount of my bandwidth that went to that hasn't been as big as it has been in the past. So that's also.
That's awesome. And I love that we're talking about this because, first of all, it is the Libra Meta Goddess. So it is about relationship. So relationship to men, or relationship to the earth, or relationship to magic, or relationship to our work, or relationship to whatever. And also that it's the Venus-Mars coming to, this is the first Venus cycle in Libra in 155 years. And Venus and Mars are coming together in the underworld. And that only happens in this season every 32 years. So like, there's some kind of math there that I found.
It's some kind of big math. It's been a long time.
It's maybe been a really long time. Yeah. And so if we think about that, and it's the underworld where we get to transmute and transform all those old patriarchal patterns, this is really,
it's big.
big.
I know, we want to do another class around it. Let's do another one, Caitlin.
Okay.
We have that be the underworld class also. You know?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, maybe, and also whatever we do. Yeah,
Guided meditation too.
And I'm just now really getting. I mean, like I've kind of been on the edge of this sort of awareness dropping in more fully, but I think that just what you and I have shared here, and I hope it inspires people who watch this later.
Exactly.
It's like, whoa, this is enormous.
It's really big. Yeah. So let's honor that. Let's create space for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for taking note of that.
Stay tuned, people.
Yeah, stay tuned.
More coming your way because this is like